Hi everyone, my name is Brittany from Brittany Loves Reading, and today I'm coming to you with the very first episode of Timmies TBR. This has been in the works for a little while. I was coming on sprints all the time. When I come on sprints, I pretty much always have a coffee, and at least 50% of the time my coffee is from Tim Hortons. I love Tim Hortons. It's cheap coffee, it's good coffee, it fuels my life, and here we are. When I don't have a Tim Hortons coffee, there is almost 50% of the time someone asks where my Tim Hortons coffee is. So it kind of felt like it was part of the brand at this point, like that people know me for my Tim Hortons coffee, and I'm totally okay with that because, like I said, I drink a lot of it. And I thought, what if I made a TBR game based around Timmies? And here we are, Timmies TBR. Basically, you will see the board in a minute, but every month I will work my way from the bottom of the board all the way to the end. However many rolls it takes to get to the end is how many books will be on my TBR every month. So if I get a lot of big rolls, there'll be less books. If I get small rolls, there'll be more books, etc. There are 4 regular card spaces on the board. There are Timbit cards, donut cards, coffee cards, and iced coffee cards. So depending on what space I land on, I will pick a card that corresponds with that space, and it will give me a prompt. Some of the prompts are based off things at Tim Hortons, like triple triple or double double, but some are just random prompts that are on cards. So there's a little bit of everything. Some are easier, some are harder, and we'll just see which ones pop up. There are also 2 other spaces on the board. There is a roll-up rec, and if I land on that space, I have a mug that has a bunch of specific books that were recommended during a brainstorming sprint session that I did last week, and I will pick a book from there, and I have to read that specific book recommended by someone who was in the comments of sprints. And the other spaces are series spinner wheel spaces. So if I land on one of those, I have a spinner wheel on my phone that has every series that I'm currently in the middle of reading on that spinner wheel. Some of those are super small, like The Wayward Children, small novella-sized books. Some are huge, like Game of Thrones, Priory of the Orange Tree, The Kingkiller Chronicles. Like there's some chunky books on there too, and then there's some books in between. So that could be good, bad, who knows how that's gonna turn out, and I'm here for the chaos. If I roll a double, whatever prompt I get, I have to pick 2 books for. That just adds more books to my TBR. So doubles, are not exactly what we want to be seeing. Once I get to the end and I get on the last space, I will have won the game, finished it, and get to pick 1 mood read. Now, this is the only book I'm going to allow myself to switch out since it is a mood read. I will pick one to talk to you about here, and I may read that one, but if I choose to switch out my mood read through the month, I'm totally gonna allow myself to do that. The rest of the books, I'm not gonna let myself switch out because I think that's just a little bit more fun and a little bit more challenging, and I read enough books a month that should still be okay. We'll see what happens. Anyway, I hope that makes sense. I'm sure you'll pick up the rules as we go along if it doesn't, but let's jump into our first roll of Timmies TBR. Roll number 1 is a 10. A coffee space. A retelling. Okay, for our first roll, we got a coffee space and we got a retelling. And I decided to go with The Weight of Blood by Tiffany D. Jackson for this. This is a horror Carrie retelling that so many people were talking about back in October and November. I did not have a chance to pick it up over the spooky season, but it is on my 5-star predictions list, and I'm very excited to be picking this up this month. Like I said, this is a Carrie retelling. However, I have not read Carrie or watched the movie. So it is a retelling, but I know the basics of the story just from pop culture references, but I probably won't know everything about the retelling, if that makes sense. However, I asked a few people if I needed to read Carrie before I read The Weight of Blood like if it was okay to just read The Way to Blood. And I was told overwhelmingly, yes, that would be fine. So that's what I'm gonna do because I don't really have any interest in reading Carrie. So this is where we are. So other than the fact that this is a Carrie retelling, I know nothing about this book. I kind of want to go into it fairly blind because I've heard just so many good things and I just kind of want to go along for the ride. The back says no one knew it would be the last time that most of them would be seen alive. And that just sounds so intriguing. And I'm like, what has happened? I need to know why everyone loves this book. And I'm so glad that I'm getting it on this TBR. Roll number 2 is a 5, a Timbit space, a middle grade. For roll number 2, we got a Timbit space and a middle grade. I've decided to go with Pages & Co. by Anna James. This has been on my shelf for a little bit of time and I haven't had a chance to pick it up, so now is the time. This is a middle grade that follows Tilly. Tilly's mother has disappeared and now Tilly spends most of her time at Pages & Co., which is her grandparents' bookshop. That all sounds fine until all of a sudden, some of Tilly's favorite characters start appearing in the bookshop. Alice in Wonderland, Anne of Green Gables. They are leaving the pages of their book and showing up in Tilly's life. To me, this sounds somewhat like a portal fantasy with characters coming out of books. I think there may even be a part of a later book where Tilly can go into books. Don't quote me on that, but I think I heard tell of that. I've heard such cute things about this book, but just hold on a second. Wait till you see Under the Dust Jacket. Isn't this just one of the most fun Under the Dust Jackets you ever did see? Roll number 3 is a 10, a donut space, Boston Cream, a book set in the US. For roll number 3, we got a donut space, and this is one of those theme prompts based off a Boston Cream donut, and it is a book set in the US. For this, I'm finally reading a book that I have had my eye on for like 2 years. The sequel came out a month ago, maybe a little over a month ago, and it just reminded me that I need to get into this series. I need to. I love dark academia. Why have I not started this series? I have no excuse. And that is Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo. I don't know how I haven't read this book yet. I haven't, but it's set at Yale, which is in the US, so we're doing it now. This follows Alex. Alex is a 20-year-old who has had kind of a difficult life. She dropped out of high school and has had a pretty hard time of it since then, including the most horrific part is being a survivor of a multiple homicide. However, for reasons unknown, a mysterious benefactor has decided to help Alex get into Yale with a full ride scholarship. The only thing that Alex has to do is keep an eye out, do some investigating into the secret societies at Yale. I've heard this is kind of a very dark academia. I'm okay with that as far as I know. Again, I haven't read it, but that doesn't typically turn me off of things. And I really love dark academia books, and I still cannot believe I haven't read this. So I'm going to this month. We're gonna read it, and it is the 3rd book going on this TBR. Roll number 4 is a 9. So close to the end with an iced coffee and a book club pick. For our 4th roll, we got an iced coffee space, and for that we got a book club pick. So the board was being very nice to me this month because this is our second to last roll because it got us one away. So it's a pretty small TBR, so the board was very kind to us this month. And it was also very kind in putting one of my book club books on this TBR. I've decided to put the B&K book club book for April onto my TBR with this prompt. If you don't know, every month me and Kelsey from Reads with Kelsey host a buddy read book club over on Discord. The link is down below. and we read a book together every single month. We do sprints and have a really great time. For this month of April, we've decided to go with an author who has quickly become a personal favorite of mine, if not my favorite author of all time. And that is Frederick Bachman. And we will be reading Britt Marie Was Here, which is actually quite funny because my name is Brittany Marie. So it's serendipitous that I read this book because it has my name in it. So this obviously follows Britt Marie, and I believe is kind of the female version of A Man Called Uwe. Britt Marie likes things a very specific way and doesn't really like when people do things outside of the way Britt Marie likes them. The synopsis really tells me nothing other than that. A Man Called Uwe was the same way. The synopsis pretty much just said it was a grumpy old man and nothing else. A Man Called Uwe was the last book I read last year. 5 stars, absolutely loved it. If you haven't watched the movie yet, A Man Called Otto with Tom Hanks, read the book, watch the movie. Both are excellent. And like I said, I believe this is somewhat of a female version of Uwe. That is my understanding from the very small synopsis on the back. If you are interested in reading this with us, again, the link and everything is down below. And we would love to have you. The more the merrier. This is my pick for book club book. Our 5th and final rule gives me a ending mood read. Let's see what I pick. And we made it to the last book on my TBR, and that is a mood read. For this, I'm going to actually put a book that I had on last month's TBR, but that I didn't get to, which, to be truthfully honest, I got to almost 0 of those books on my Roll of Reads TBR. March was a month where everything just kind of didn't go how I planned it to. And I did read a lot, but it wasn't basically anything that was on that TBR. I read a couple, but not very many. This one, I was very disappointed to not get to. So it's going to be my mood read for this month, and that is The Charm Offensive by Alison Cochrane. I was so disappointed that I didn't get to this in March. So it's happening in April. It's on this TBR. This follows Dev. Dev is a producer of a reality TV dating show called Ever After, has been a producer for a long time, but now is tasked with a very challenging Prince Charming. Charlie is not good on camera. He's very stiff, he's very nervous, he's very anxious, and doesn't do well on camera. And Dev has to help Charlie do well on the TV show. This is a queer romance, so I assume, just taking a wild guess, that a relationship between Dev and Charlie happens. I also expect to see really great mental health rep in this. I believe the mental health rep in this is anxiety rep, from what I've done my research on. That makes a lot of sense to me considering the other book by this author, which is Kiss Her Once for Me, had really great anxiety rep. It was one of the reasons I loved it, and it made it into my top 10 books of last year. I didn't get to this in March, but it's gonna happen in April. It's happening. So like I said, that was the last book that I have for my official first Timmies TBR book. I hope that you loved this game and are excited to see how maybe getting some of the doubles and punishments that are gonna come from the game gets a little crazy in the future. This time it was very nice to me with very large rolls and no doubles, but I have a feeling the game's not always going to be nice to me, but we'll see what happens. Thank you so much for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.